to bring any empathy with him, but he did bring a hat. What's going on? Why am I losing this? Why don't I have sound? Someone's pressing buttons and turning my sound off. Who's asking for a Labor Day rundown in my ear? Someone in that control room is out of control. Fucking God damn it. Get. If you think the president's language was a little too celebratory about the sudden fame that can happen to people during hurricane coverage, a fame no one should welcome, you have insanity in my earpiece. Fuck. President Trump did not mention Sergeant Perez today. Every time we go to a SOT, there's a woman talking in my ear about something that has nothing to do with what we're doing here. James Fallows and Josh Earnest, thank you both for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Stop the hammering out there. Who's got a hammer? Where is it?
I don't know.
Where's the hammer? Is it on the, go up on the other floor. Somebody go up there and stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Call fucking Phil Griffin. I don't care who the fuck you have to call. Stop the hammering.
I'm sympathetic to Lawrence O'Donnell on this. It's funny as all hell, which is why I'm playing it. But I am sympathetic to him on this. As somebody who does a show similar to what he is doing here, you're flowing. Like stuff is coming out of you and just kind of going into the mic. You don't necessarily have full control over the apparatus. Or at the very least what's coming through the apparatus. And when there's something coming through your ear, and I can imagine having an earpiece, it's massively distracting. And in being massively distracting, it is massively angering. I have been in this situation where I have lost my shit. Not like that. Nothing like that. Never like that. But I'm greatly annoyed, perturbed by extraneous sound. So, fair enough. I'm not going to, soft, too far. But I understand. Good friend that disapproves but understands. The reason why I'm showing this is because apparently this took place on or around Labor Day. And the last bitter ender, Russiagator, Lawrence O'Donnell, came out with a story that was bogus. And that at the time where the story came out, I put it in my Twitter feed because Aaron Matei was like, I have reserved judgment on this. That's what Matei said. And I said, I agree with you. Most of these stories that have come out have been outright bogus. And at this point, I might as well just wait and see. Oh, but not Lawrence. Lawrence was not one to wait and see. Deutsche Bank comes out with a story saying, we have information pertaining to the subpoena for Trump's tax returns. That's what Deutsche Bank came out with. Oh my God, Deutsche Bank has something about Trump's tax returns. And in whispers, we got him. I think we got him this time. We got his returns. Lawrence didn't whisper. Lawrence went on his show and gave what Rachel Maddow thought at the time was a bombshell. And what a lot of other people who got burned on that Russiagate fire one time after the next by calling things that were bombshells that ended up being utterly ludicrous, Lawrence didn't let that deter him. With one source, Lawrence comes out and gives what Rachel Maddow, again, considered to be a bombshell. Only up until the point where a few days later, he had to retract the story. Welcome to the Soapbox. Let's have some fun. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Might as well say Soapbox After Dark because looking out my window is dark. Guys, if you dig this content and you find yourself coming back to this channel often, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you really find yourself digging this content, please consider supporting this content through PayPal or Patreon. Everything that goes up by YouTube at this point is demonetized. This is their algorithm. They make that so. So despite doing a bit better in regards to the views, the videos get demonetized. I say that to say this channel is brought to you by you. And as such, I thank you for allowing me to do this particular show. the last Russiagator. I would have thought that distinction would have been with Maddow. And maybe that distinction will end up with Maddow, but in this particular case, we are talking about one Lawrence O'Donnell. I don't dislike Lawrence O'Donnell. I remember Lawrence O'Donnell because I used to watch his show. And Lawrence O'Donnell got into this really big debate with Glenn Greenwald that is awesome viewing on Joe Scarborough's show, where Glenn Greenwald is essentially saying, look, several Democrats, blue dogs, dinosaurs, might as well say Republicans that don't like racism or racist stuff, if you would have got rid of them, even if they would have lost their districts, you would have had enough progressives that would have been able to get what you wanted in regards to policy from the standpoint of the House. Now, O'Donnell disagreed with that. But O'Donnell said something in that I thought was badass, because he started off saying, Glenn, unlike you progressives who can't own up to social policy and can't own up and just call yourself what you are, I myself am a socialist. And he starts the debate off of there, which was awesome. I don't necessarily know who won that debate, because both of these guys really made really good points. I'm probably, at this point, lean towards Glenn. What I do know, in this particular instance, this is not O'Donnell looking good. This is not O'Donnell making these kind of bold, progressive statements. This is O'Donnell being firmly in the camp of Russiagate and pushing that Russiagate stuff on a story that just came out that he apparently only had one source. Let's watch Rachel Maddow get her mind blown.
Donald Trump's loan documents there show that he has co-signers. That's how he was able to obtain those loans, and that the co-signers are Russian oligarchs.
What? Really?
That would explain, it seems to me, every kind word Donald Trump has ever said about Russia and Vladimir Putin, if true.
Now, just to recap, a story comes out where Deutsche Bank says we have records corresponding to the subpoena that the Democratic Party has essentially put out, looking for information in relation or dealing with Trump's tax returns. Deutsche Bank says, yes, we have records in that sense. Now, Deutsche Bank hasn't necessarily said who it pertains to. They've just said that, yes, we have records pertaining to that information. O'Donnell comes out on his show and said that the loans have something to do with Russian oligarchs, and that these loans prove or get across why Donald Trump is, in their minds, conciliatory towards Vladimir Putin. Now, the problem, there's all sorts of logical problems with the whole, it explains every nice thing that he says about Vladimir Putin. Because if you look at U.S. policy, it hasn't been all that nice to Vladimir Putin. The pulling out of the missile treaties, the attacks on Venezuela, the attacks on Iran. I mean, these are not necessarily things that Russia was awesome or was blown away by, in a good sense. The weapons in space, this notion of space force, meaning forcing Russia and China to also respond in kind of putting weapons in space. These are not things that the Russian government were in love with. Regardless of what he says out of his mouth, you guys have looked at the world through a very specific context and have never budged one iota from that context, despite evidence and information coming up that shows that your perspective on this is askew. Put it mildly. Fast forward, 2-3 days? 2-3 days? Same Lawrence O'Donnell blowing Rachel Maddow away. What? Yeah, Rachel. You should have been a little bit more, let's say, doubtful, seeing as all of these other stories have proven to be bunk. And just like the other stories that CNN has been pushing, that MSNBC has been pushing, the Russiagate narrative, all the stuff that's proven to be bunk, here we have Lawrence O'Donnell, contrite, wrong, and now needs to explain to his audience that thought, yes, we finally got him. I knew he was working with the Russians. I knew it. Yes. Yes. And Lawrence O'Donnell just told me so. He looks in the camera every night. I watch his show every night. He seems to be an earnest, straightforward guy. He's snarly. Don't misunderstand me. He can be smug, but he's smug in pursuit of pushing the agenda that I myself like. He's on my wavelength, and I trust him. And because I trust this face, when this face came out, standing side by side with that other face that I trust, Rachel Maddow, who was always, helped me with my Trump-Russia stuff. That was the place I can always go to when I needed my Trump-Russia picker-upper. If he's telling me that the Russians, these oligarchs, have signed Trump's loans, then it has to be true, right? It has to be true. Is it, Lawrence? Is it true?
Discussed information that wasn't ready for reporting. I repeated statements a single source told me about the president's finances and loan documents with Deutsche Bank, saying, if true, as I discussed the information, was simply not good enough. I did not go through the rigorous verification and standards process here at MSNBC before repeating.
Why? Why didn't you? Basic question. Not going to hit a man when he's being contrite. And I will give him credit for this. MSNBC has flagrant liars on their channel like Brian Williams. Brian Williams should have lost his job a long time ago. You can even make an argument that Brian Williams has his job at MSNBC because that Brian Williams is a flagrant liar. So I give him credit that you come back and says, you know what? I got the story massively, completely, entirely wrong. I brought the story to you. I gave it to my audience. I shocked Rachel Maddow. I mean, look at her. She's about to pass out. She's enamored by what she was told by Lawrence O'Donnell. What? I mean, she's blown away. You've nearly knocked Rachel Maddow out with this story, Lawrence. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Those loans, and that the co-signers are Russian oligarchs.
What? Really?
No, not really. Not really at all. Something other than really. You've shocked Rachel Maddow, Lawrence, and she is like the Russiagator's Russiagator. You got this wrong. Why? I'm asking a different question. I understand the contriteness. I understand you come into, look, I got it wrong. I screwed up. My job is to get the news right, and I got it wrong. I'm getting paid millions of dollars to get it right, and I got it wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't go through the rigorous, typical procedures that MSNBC goes through when it's relaying its propaganda. My bad. But my question is a little bit different. Why? Why didn't you go through the rigorous procedures? Why did you rely on one source? Why, for this particular story, did you feel the need to just... as if you were in the Jedi film where they were trying to get that last document out in order to, give them the secrets to how to take down Rogue One, the secrets to take down the Death Star. You weren't taking down nothing. This wasn't you running with the secrets to take down the Death Star, giving your life at the end. That's not what this was. That's not what this was. Why did you blow off the typical procedures that are associated with your particular network, as you say, in order to relate this particular story? Why was this that important to you, and why did you believe so much in this particular one source to put this out there? Thank you for coming forward and saying you fucked up. I appreciate it, but I'm asking something different.
Wasn't ready for reporting. I repeated statements a single source told me about the president's finances and loan documents with Deutsche Bank, saying, if true, as I discussed the information, was simply not good enough. I did not go through the rigorous verification and standards process here at MSNBC before repeating what I heard from my source. Had it gone through that process, I would not have been permitted to report it. I should not have said it on air or posted it on Twitter. I was wrong to do so. This afternoon, attorneys for the president sent us a letter asserting the story is false. They all
Lawsuits. That is the thing that Trump does not mind doing. Trump doesn't mind lawsuits, so he's threatening them with lawsuits. Let's hear it.
Demanded a retraction. Tonight, we are retracting the story. We don't know whether the information is inaccurate, but the fact is we do know it wasn't ready for broadcast, and for that, I apologize. Last night on this show, I discussed information that wasn't ready for reporting. I repeated statements a single source told me about the president's finances and loan documents with Deutsche Bank, saying, if true, as I discussed the information, was simply
I appreciate him coming out saying, look, I don't know if this was true or not. I had one source. I shouldn't have came out with the story. And my thing is, why did you feel the need that this was so important for you to blow off, supposedly, all of the standards associated with your network in order to run out and throw this story into the public consciousness? Even, again, shocking, bitter ender Russiagator, Rachel Maddow. What? Really? What? That's the Elizabeth Warren finger. When Elizabeth Warren lies, she used that finger like that. That was a great debate between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Yeah. Look, I appreciate Lawrence O'Donnell coming out saying he fucked up. So I don't want to, go too far with that notion of kind of dinging him for this. It's more so this notion of the Russiagator stuff, and they're still pushing this nonsense. They're still pushing it. This took place, again, last week. This was only like a few days ago. Deutsche Bank comes out with a story immediately. Lawrence O'Donnell comes out and says, hey, I know what those tax returns, I know what they're saying about his returns. He didn't know. Baltazar, wait, MSNBC has vigorous verification methods? So that's what I was laughing at, and that's why I was saying quotes. Right, I was thinking the same thing. What? Vigorous verification? Wait, MSNBC has rigorous verification methods? Is that why they're phoning Hillary Clinton and the DNC for their talking points nowadays? Rigorous verification methods, my ass. But again, applause for coming out and saying you fucked up. Shout out to you, Lawrence O'Donnell, for doing so. Even though I still question why. Jay Vale, Warren's impressions are much better. I wasn't trying to do a Warren impression. And I caught myself as I was doing it. I was trying to dial that back. My goal wasn't a Warren impression. I don't know how to do a Warren impression, so that's not what I was going for. Zalix, they should be arrested and put in prison. Sunglasses Girl, Warren's tell from that interview with Cenk was that she stopped and fidgeted, right, when she was saying something that was less than 100%. Yeah, when she did this, bam. I thought that was a great debate. She even leans back. I thought that was a great debate, Cenk. And it's like, I showed video of Warren on one day saying, yes, they rigged it. And then when the reporter says, wow, that's a heavy statement, she says, yeah, it is. And the next day saying, they did not rig it. And then to go to Uyghur and say, I thought it was a great contest between Clinton and Sanders. And Cenk never just asks the very basic question of, wait, in a contest where you thought on one day they rigged it, on the next day they didn't rig it, you thought that was a good contest? He never asked that question. He never really get. That's a horrible interview that Cenk did. I'll just say it that way. All right. I'm going to end this. But it's funny to me that Trump lawyers got involved. And Lawrence O'Donnell was like, holy shit, I'm going to be sued. All right, yeah, I need to retract that story because that story wasn't ready for mainstream. I'm not saying it was completely false. I'm just saying, it might not be true. Look, Deutsche Bank, they don't know. It's unclear what it is. Meaning, Deutsche Bank has said, yes, there's something that pertains to the subpoena that the Democratic Party has asked for dealing with Trump's tax returns or dealing with his returns. But it's unclear if they're even his returns that they're talking about. And apparently some of the people that are involved are not even being asked for in the subpoena. So we don't know what it is. Lawrence O'Donnell is saying it's oligarchs. Who knows? Who knows? I'll end it here. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.